The world stood still, split between two colossal powers. To the west, young, calculating Octavian Caesar, the adopted heir of the divine Julius. To the east, the great general Mark Antony, ensconced in the gilded warmth of Egypt, bound to the most formidable woman of the age, Cleopatra VII. This was not merely a territorial dispute, it was a battle for the soul of the Roman world, a contest to determine whether Rome would remain a republic guided by tradition or descend into an exotic Hellenistic monarchy. For nearly a decade, the relationship between Antony and Octavian had been a fragile partnership, cemented by blood, marriage, and political necessity. As members of the Second Triumvirate, they had hunted down Caesar's assassins and divided the spoils. But with the defeat of their final rival, Sextus Pompey, and the political removal of Marcus Lepidus, the Roman sphere shrunk, leaving only two suns in the sky, destined to collide. Octavian held the strategic West, Italy, Gaul, and Spain, with the immense political gravity of Rome itself. Antony held the wealth of the East, Greece, Asia Minor, and most crucially, the resources of the Nile. Antony's commitment to Cleopatra was initially a pragmatic alliance. He needed Egyptian gold and grain to finance his legions and his ambition to conquer Parthia, a campaign vital for restoring Rome's lost standards and his own prestige. But what began as strategy matured into a genuine, passionate bond. Cleopatra was more than just a royal donor. She was a brilliant, polyglot monarch, a direct descendant of the Ptolemies, and a master strategist in her own right. Together, they dreamed of a new Hellenistic empire, centered not in Rome, but in Alexandria, an empire that would see Rome as merely one component, not the sole master. In 34 BCE, Antony formalized their vision in a spectacular public ceremony known as the Donations of Alexandria. Before immense crowds, he and Cleopatra sat on golden thrones, flanked by their children. Antony declared Caesarion, Cleopatra's son by Julius Caesar, the true heir to Caesar and King of Kings. He distributed Roman provinces to his own children with Cleopatra. Alexander Helios was named King of Armenia, Media, and Parthia, the latter two yet to be conquered. His twin sister, Cleopatra Selene, received Cyrenaica and Libya, and the young Ptolemy Philadelphus was granted Syria and Cilicia. These declarations were a direct, audacious affront to Rome. Antony was parceling out Roman territories as if they were his own personal fiefdom, granting royal titles to half Roman, half Egyptian children. Octavian, safely situated in Rome, seized on these events with ruthless political genius. He understood that he could never defeat Antony militarily if the great general remained popular in Rome. Thus began the most effective and savage propaganda war in antiquity. Octavian's narrative was simple and deadly. Mark Antony had not simply become a Roman general living abroad, he had been enslaved by an exotic foreign sorceress. Octavian's agents and poets painted Cleopatra not as a powerful head of state, but as a dangerous, degenerate Eastern queen, a threat to the sober Roman virtues of pietas, duty, and gravitas, dignity. They warned the Roman people that Antony planned to move the capital to Alexandria, replacing the venerated Jupiter with Egyptian deities. Every one of Antony's actions in the East was filtered through this lens of betrayal and foreign corruption. Antony's popularity, once immense, began to erode under the constant acid bath of Octavian's messaging. Yet Octavian needed more than public outrage. He needed a legal, undeniable pretext to declare war not on Antony, a respected Roman magistrate, but on Cleopatra, a foreign queen. He needed proof that Antony had irrevocably betrayed the Republic. That proof came in a moment of sheer political audacity, the event that would forever be remembered as the Great Betrayal. Antony had left his last will and testament in the keeping of the Vestal Virgins in Rome. The Vestals were sacrosanct. Their vaults, the Temple of Vesta, were the safest and most revered depository in the entire city, a place where no Roman official, especially not a rival, dared tread. Yet in 32 BCE, amidst the escalating political crisis, Octavian marched directly to the Temple of Vesta and, claiming that his duty to the Republic superseded all religious boundaries, forcibly seized the document. The illegality and impiety of this act were staggering. It was an unprecedented violation of Roman tradition, yet Octavian framed it as a desperate measure to save the state. He then marched to the Forum and publicly read the contents of Antony's will to the Senate and the Roman populace. The effect was immediate and catastrophic for Antony. The specific clauses that Octavian chose to read and emphasize were meticulously selected to confirm every fear his propaganda machine had sown. Firstly, the will recognized Caesarion as the legitimate son of Julius Caesar, directly challenging Octavian's adopted status and claim as Caesar's sole heir. This clause was dynamite, threatening the entire foundation of Octavian's power. Secondly, and perhaps most infamously, Antony requested that his body, regardless of where he might die, be sent back to Alexandria to be buried beside Cleopatra. For a great Roman magistrate and general to choose eternal rest on foreign soil next to a foreign queen was interpreted as the ultimate declaration of his rejection of Rome. It solidified the image of Antony as a man so corrupted by Eastern excess that he valued the foreign queen over his own heritage and his Roman wife, Octavia, Octavian's sister.
Thirdly, the will confirmed the donations of Alexandria, ratifying the division of Roman territories among his and Cleopatra's children. The reading of the will was not merely a scandal, it was a political death blow. Octavian had not merely seized a document, he had weaponized it. Whether the document was entirely genuine, or whether Octavian had cleverly introduced forged passages to maximize the political damage, became irrelevant. The public spectacle and the scandalous nature of the revealed contents were enough. The Vestal virgins and other Roman leaders protested the illegal seizure, but the wave of outrage against Antony drowned out their principled objections. The will provided Octavian with the ultimate justification. Antony was no longer acting as a Roman consul, but as a vassal of an Egyptian queen. The Senate, already purged of Antony's supporters, promptly stripped Antony of his remaining titles and consular power. Crucially, they did not declare war on Antony, which would have been politically perilous as a Roman civil war. Instead, they declared war on Cleopatra herself, framing the conflict as a righteous foreign war to protect Rome from the Egyptian threat and restore the lost territories. The man who had been the co-ruler of the Roman world was now reduced to the role of an Egyptian queen's general, a traitor fighting for a foreign power. The path to war was now irreversible. Antony and Cleopatra gathered their immense forces, but they were already fighting a losing battle of public opinion. At Actium in 31 BCE, the naval clash off the Greek coast proved decisive. The battle itself was inconclusive until Cleopatra, perceiving a tactical defeat, abruptly sailed away with 60 ships. Antony, utterly demoralized and focused only on his commitment to her, broke formation and followed, leaving his entire fleet and army leader to be mopped up by Octavian's superior tactics and demoralized command structure. The abandonment of his forces at Actium was the final humiliation, confirming to Rome that Antony was indeed lost to his obsession. Octavian immediately pressed his advantage, sailing towards Egypt. Antony and Cleopatra spent their last year in Alexandria, a period known as the Year of Living Dangerously. They hosted lavish parties, desperately trying to maintain an illusion of stability while their empire crumbled around them. As Octavian's forces closed in on Alexandria in 30 BCE, Antony's final attempt at a land battle failed utterly. His remaining cavalry defected, and his fleet surrendered. With the armies melting away and his final gamble lost, Antony received a false report that Cleopatra had died by her own hand. In a fit of despair, he fell upon his sword. Mortally wounded, Antony was brought to the monument where Cleopatra had retreated with her most trusted servants and where she was truly hiding, intending to burn all her treasures rather than surrender them. He died in her arms, sealing his tragic fate as the Roman hero who chose love over empire. Cleopatra, captured by Octavian, was held under guard. Octavian intended to parade her through the streets of Rome, the ultimate symbol of his triumph. The queen who had once charmed Julius Caesar and captivated Mark Antony understood Roman politics as well as any general. She knew that to be dragged in chains would not just be a personal indignity, but the final, definitive destruction of the Ptolemaic dynasty's image. Her final act was one of supreme political defiance. After a final, emotional visit to Antony's tomb and having failed to charm or negotiate her way to freedom with Octavian, she sent a letter to the young Caesar, requesting to be buried alongside Antony. She then prepared herself. The traditional account states she used an asp, a symbol of royal power in Egypt, smuggled in a basket of figs to deliver a fatal, swift, venomous bite. Octavian was furious. His greatest trophy had escaped his triumph. He had wanted the spectacle of her capture, but instead he was left only with the silence of her defiance. He granted her final wish to be buried with Antony, ensuring a swift and quiet end to the drama. Caesarion, her son with Julius Caesar, was executed, eliminating the last rival to Octavian's claim on Caesar's legacy. Her remaining children with Antony were taken to Rome, not as heirs but as captives, paraded, and then raised by Octavian's sister Octavia, safely neutralized from any power. The death of Antony and Cleopatra in 30 BCE marked the end of the Hellenistic Age and the final definitive end of the Roman Republic. Octavian's victory was not merely military, it was a masterful political performance. By illegally seizing and publicizing the will, he transformed a deeply unpopular civil war into a popular foreign crusade, securing the moral and legal authority he needed. This political betrayal, this violation of the sacred Temple of Vesta, was the calculated price of empire. He returned to Rome not as a victorious warlord, but as the princeps, the first citizen, ushering in the Pax Romana under the guise of restoring the republic he had, in fact, destroyed. The forged will was the final, devastating piece of evidence that justified the entire transformation of the Roman world.